The first one is that the mind is quite multiple, that there are all these what I call parts, other systems call ego states or internal objects or subpersonalities that constitute our minds, and that at least from my exploration, that's a good thing because all of them are valuable. They have wonderful qualities to help us in our life, resources. But, and this is relevant to this topic, trauma and what we call attachment injuries or bad parenting and the slings and arrows that you encounter in your life force them out of their naturally valuable states into roles that can be damaging and can create symptoms. And so this, I just, again, through trial and error over many years, my clients were talking about these parts, and I just started asking questions about my background's as a family therapist. So I was trying to see how they all related to each other inside. And that's a lot of what I was learning, that they aren't what they seem, and that the mistake that most of us make is to try to get rid of or fight with the parts that give you trouble instead of going to them and getting to know why they're in these roles and help them out of those roles. So parts, there are no bad ones. That's the title of my most recent book, No Bad Parts. But they do cause us problems when they're stuck in the past, because trauma has a way of freezing them in time during the trauma, and also injecting them with what I call burdens, which are these extreme beliefs and emotions that came into our system during the trauma and then attach to them and drive the way they operate, almost like a virus. So good parts forced into extreme roles, burdened with extreme beliefs and emotions, and frozen in the past, and such that if I were to have you ask one of your parts how old it thought you were, you'd get a single digit most of the time. So they really think you're still living in that danger, and they need to protect you in the way they did back then. And so some of them do become what we call protectors. They're forced into these protective roles. Others we call exiles, because those are the parts that before they got hurt, other systems would call these inner children that are innocent and before they got hurt, playful and creative and joyful. But they're also the most sensitive parts of us, so that when they get hurt or terrified or shamed somehow, they start picking up those particular burdens, and they then have the power to overwhelm us and make us feel like we are worthless, or we are terrified, or we are whatever they're carrying, whatever burden they're carrying. And because of that, not realizing that they're just these little young parts, thinking we're just moving on from the trauma, we tend to lock them away inside in kind of an inner basement and try our best to stay away from those feelings and memories, just thinking that we're moving on and we're not going to look back and we're just going to go on with our life. But we're leaving these precious qualities in the dust that way. And then we don't have access to those qualities anymore either. So it's insult to injury to these exiles. The injury was the trauma, and the insult is our abandonment of them. And when you have a bunch of exiles, you feel a lot more delicate, and the world seems a lot more dangerous because so many things could trigger them and do trigger them. And so you have to have other parts that are forced out of their naturally valuable states to become protectors. And they start to protect and by managing your life so that things don't trigger those exiles.